Welcome back to the channel, Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're taking a look at this week's pre-orders. Sunday preview. Give a warm welcome to the Leagues of Votann. Just imagine this time last year, you'd never have believed that the Leagues of Votann would be real, let alone in your hands. But real they are, and pre-orders are less than a week away. As if that weren't enough, reinforcements flood into the Age of Darkness. The Predator tank bolsters its extensive arsenal. Loyalists are joined by a host of sinister assassins, and heroes of the Death Guard and Dark Angels join your command staff. It's a big week. So you can check out the video if you want for the highlights, but we're going to take a look at everything. And if you are new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe for daily reaction, reviews, news, painting, modeling, conversion tutorials for Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team, Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, Warcry, Horus Heresy, pretty much all of the GW tabletop games. So we have the Codex Leagues of Votann. So we know, obviously, there's going to be two codexes. We have the regular codex and the special edition or limited edition codex. Contents inside are the same. Look, I'm going to come out and say it right off the bat. There was obviously a bunch of points updates. Every unit in the codex got an update. And they also had some rules changes as well. Well, really just the one. Those, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to come out and say with about 99% certainty, they will not be corrected in these books. So if you buy this book, full on understand that there's going to be some changes that have happened since then that will not be reflected in the book, because it takes a long time to go to print and all that stuff. So just warning people ahead of time, if you're going to gripe about that, don't buy the book. You know, use digital or whatever, etc. So we know the regular books can be 55 in line with the normal codexes, and the special edition will be 90. We'll see if Games Workshop actually mentions that in here. I'm assuming they will go the regular Games Workshop edition direction and just kind of like pretend like it didn't happen. The Might of the Kin is unleashed with 104 pages of Leagues of Votann lore and rules. Bring this long-awaited faction roaring into the 41st millennium. A complete roster of datasheets, stratagems, warlord traits, and relics gives your new army the power it needs to carve out the name on the battlefield, while in-depth crusade rules lead your kin host on a daring quest for resources across the galaxy. Befitting such a momentous release, you can also mark the occasion with a glamorous collector's edition codex embossed with gleaming silver foil and luxurious details, but only while stocks last. So yeah, they did not mention that the codex will be out of date. Alright, so here we have the Combat Patrol. We already saw this in the codex with the army box set, but essentially you're going to get 3 of the Pioneers, 10 of the regular kin, 5 of the Cthonian Berserkers, and then the Uthar, the Destined / Kahl model as well. So we don't know the actual prices on these yet. So it's basically just like guessing or speculation, but I'm assuming the bikes will be like 60 bucks. The troops will be like 60 bucks. The Berserkers will be roughly 60 bucks. So that's 180. And then Uthar will be probably like 35, maybe 38.50 because he's a special character. So we're looking at basically around like 215, somewhere around there for this in value. And we know the price will be 150. So not bad. Decent little savings there. Hit the ground running with the Combat Patrol Leagues of Votann, packing an essential collection of units into one tidy box. You get 1 Kahl, buildable as special character Uthar the Destined, plus 10 Hearthkin Warriors, 3 Hernkyn Pioneers, and 5 Cthonian Beserkers, giving you powerful options whether the enemy is up close or far away. So overall, composition-wise, here's the thing. You can get still the Leagues of Votann army box pretty much anywhere on the internet for around 160 to 170 after everything's all said and done. You can buy the new Combat Patrol for 150 when that comes out, with, let's say, roughly most people can get 15 to 20% off. So let's just say 20% off. So if we take 30 away from 150, that's 120 for this, or for basically like 40 to 50 more dollars, you can buy the limited edition army box. Now, it is a little bit different. You get 20 of the Pioneers in the other box, and you get the Einhyr Champion as well. And then you get the Codex and the data cards, but you don't get the Cthonian Berserkers. So it's not exactly the same, but to tell you the truth, I still think that the army box is a much better deal. Now, once you have the Codex and the cards, that might not be the case, because I do think the Cthonian Berserkers are pretty good. Now, they got a huge points increase, so they're not nearly as viable. I mean, you're looking at over 150 points. For these 5 models, depending on like upgrades and everything. That's a lot of points for these 5 guys. They are pretty durable, but it's not because they have a good save. They have a 6-up save, so could go either way. Honestly, I'm thinking Games Workshop is going to walk back some of the points increases down the line when they realize that they just completely nerfed the Votann into the ground. But in Games Workshop's defense, and this doesn't happen often, you got to give them credit because they could have waited until all these models were out, everything was on the field, everybody had already bought everything, and then come in and hit them real hard with the nerf. Now it's like, full on going into it that they're not going to get nerfed again. They're probably going to get unnerfed, at least to some degree, over time. Or they're going to be competitive where they're at, and they won't need to have any more changes. So at least now you know what you're getting. It's definitely a positive. I really like the Votann. I think they're great. I did some conversions on mine, and they're pretty awesome. I'll be showing those off pretty soon as well. But I'm a big fan of the models, the range, and overall the rules are pretty good. So, all right. So next we have Uthar, the Destined. That being said, though, I don't think Votann are going to be like dominating the scene. They have almost no defense of mortal wounds, and we're in a massive mortal wound meta right now. So with the point increases and basically almost no defense against mortal wounds, they're just going to get, in my opinion, they're just going to get picked up off the table left and right. So Uthar the Destined, really cool model right here. He is the special character for the Greater Thurian League, or you can build him as a generic call. Every army is going to have minimum one call, probably a high call. So chosen for command and drilled for war from birth, Uthar the Destined has trained his entire life to lead the Greater Thurian League to victory. He's both an indomitable fighter and a masterful commander, squeezing every ounce of potential from his soldiers while carving up his foes with the blade of ancestors. This kit can alternatively be built as a standard call, a powerful leader for kin hosts of any league. So one of the first decisions you're going to have to make if you decide to start a Leagues of Votann army is what league you're going to play. There's two leagues that definitely stand out. The Greater Thurian League, which allows you to take Uthar, who is a very good character, or the other one is the Ymir Conglomerate. So those are the two best ones. I think that the Greater Thurian League, their basic rule is really good, allowing you to reroll one hit and wound per unit. Obviously, that's better in smaller units with like lesser, really good weapons. So that's pretty good overall, I think, for the Votann. The other option, the Ymir Conglomerate, gives a invulnerable save to all of your units in combat and shooting. And it gives it based on their regular save. So all your models with a 2-up save get a 4-up invulnerable save. All your models with a 3-up or higher save get a 5-up invulnerable save. So the invulnerable save is really good for resilience, as where the rerolling one hit and one wound per unit is really good for output of damage. So I think that's really what it comes down to. Do you think you're going to need a little more resilience, or are you going to need a little more output of damage? Spoiler alert, they have really high output of damage already. So probably, honestly, the Ymir Conglomerate is probably better because of the invulnerable save, a couple stratagems, etc. But I think they're really close depending on which units you're taking. Like if you're going to take a bunch of units that have 2-up saves and you do the math and figure they're going to get shot by stuff with -5 AP, and then the -5 AP gets taken down by their special rule, the Void Armor, so then it's -4 AP, and you have a 2-up save, you're going to go to a 6-up save, and then you have stuff that basically can allow you to get a free 6-up save on something, like treats a dice as a 6, etc. So there's a lot of different combos that are still useful without the invulnerable save, but the invulnerable save, in my opinion, just the easy route. So that being said, let's keep on rolling down here. So we have the Grimnyr next. So this is your only psyker in the army. They're different in the sense that you have a character that comes in a unit with basically like regular guys, but doesn't get affected the same way by like bodyguard rules and stuff like that. So if you have this guy like in your back line and they can see him, they can unload on him with, las cannons or whatever. So you do have to be careful with placement and everything like that. Once his little bodyguards die, though, obviously, he has the character rule, so he can sort of be covered by your other units. So you do have to be strategic with these, as where most your other armies, they're going to have like their Psychers and their Tech Marines as like individual models, not units. So the Grimnyr, very cool model in my opinion. I really like this. The bodyguards are super cool as well. Known as living ancestors, the Grimnyr use strange barrier tech to manipulate the immaterial and manifest deadly psychic powers. They're among the few privy to the Votann themselves, deciphering their wisdom and acting as something of priesthood to their kin bands. And they do have some pretty freaking good psychic powers as well. You're probably going to want to take at least one Grimnyr in your army. The ability to basically get a free command point every turn with a psychic power. And then there's some other good stuff as well. The one that really stands out as being like very strong. There's one that you can take away invulnerable saves within either like 12 to 18 inches depending. So very, very good obviously for shutting down invulnerables. So next we have the Einhyr Champion. This guy's just a straight up beat stick. He doesn't have a ton of like crazy special rules that are like real powerful. He has a couple like just sort of cool rules that are rather abstract. But overall, he hits really hard. And if you take the relic hammer, he is phenomenal. Because basically on 6s, he just does a D3 plus 3 mortal wounds instead of the regular damage. But very strong, very durable. The kin are capable of subtle tactics, but when something just needs to be smashed really hard, they call for the Einhyr Champions. Their rocket-boosted exo armor slams into enemies with the force of a freight train, delivering the peerless hammer-swinging skills of the champion into the heart of battle. So next we have the Einhyr Hearthguard. So these are essentially like the Terminator equivalent. Now they do only have 2 wounds. The Void Armor helps with their resilience. They also have -1 damage. So essentially, anything that has 3 damage or more is going to be killing one of these guys for every shot. Now, granted, if you have the 2-up, 4-up save from Ymir Conglomerate, or even without that, they're still very good. They're sort of like a tanky shooting unit that's good at combat also, but they don't have a lot of attacks. You don't really want them in combat, preferably, unless they can kill whatever they're in combat with and then get back out to be doing what they're supposed to do. But they are primarily a shooting unit. They're very, very durable. In my opinion, the price nerf on them is just out of control. The points nerf. They're very, very expensive. I mean, 10 of them is basically 500 points at this point in time. So I really think they went overboard with the point increases, but it is what it is. The Einhyr Hearthguard are nothing short of the league's finest troops. Protected by bulky exo armor and carrying an array of powerful weapons, they have both the skills and equipment to tussle with your enemy's best, emerging victorious in a hail of bolts and blades. Next we have the Brokhyr Iron-Master. So this guy is pretty freaking good. He's basically the tech marine. Again, it's a unit right here. So you have essentially like his assistant, and then you have like the little like drones that are with him. Again, it's a unit, so it can always be targeted until the 3 little drones die off, and then the 2 other guys have the character keyword. The gun that he carries is really good. There's a relic version of the gun, and there's also some stratagems, especially if you go with the Ymir Conglomerate. There is essentially a way that you can just pump mortal wounds out with this guy using his like little beam rifle. He's pretty good in combat, but the real thing is that if you upgrade him to essentially like it's like the chapter master equivalent type thing, you give him like the special 1 per army upgrades. He gets some stellar rules, very, very good rules. So definitely want to check that out. He's obviously able to repair vehicles. He can, with that upgrade, go from a D3 repair +1 from his little assistants. So instead of like 2 to 4, he just goes to a flat 3 +1. So he can auto heal 4 points every turn. So very, very strong, obviously, in line with other tech marines and stuff like that. A little different swing on it, but every army, I would say, is going to have probably at least one of these. Very, very cool. The Kinhost Forges are tended by the Brokhyr, a guild of masters. The Kinhost Forges are tended by the Brokhyr, a guild of master makers and menders. Iron Masters are the best of the kin. Iron Masters are the best of their kind, leading repair and recovery efforts on the battlefield, aided by the entourage of Ironkin and ECOG repair crews. And then next we have the Bokeir Thundercan. These are really cool models. I actually really like them. They look great. Unfortunately, they already weren't good before, and then after the nerfs, they went up in points, and they're just absolutely terrible now. In my opinion, there's zero reason to ever take these. They serve no purpose that something else doesn't serve, and they're too expensive to do what they're even meant to do. Again, very cool models, though. When Brokhyr aren't required to fix up the league's war gear, they strap on the lumbering exo frames and heft heavy weapons into battle. Bolt cannons and gravitation blast cannons shred light and heavy infantry alike, while SP conversion beams bore holes straight through the hardiest vehicles. And next we have the Hearthkin Warriors. So these are just your regular old troopers here. You have the ability to take 2 special weapons per 10 guys, or heavy, whatever you want to call them, but you can't duplicate them. So you can't have like 2 Magna rail rifles in a 10-man unit. You can, however, have 2 in a 10-man unit and then 2 more of a different weapon. I'm sorry, in a 20-man unit. So, 1 of each weapon per 10 with a max of 2 per 10 and not duplicated. And then also you can equip, obviously, the leader of the squad with a, power weapon and like plasma equivalent. Pretty good overall. There's some upgrades for the squad as well. Like the medic allows you to skip your first failed save. You have the ability to essentially like reroll 1s within 24 inches of your call. Just a couple of cool things like that. Take away your opponent's cover. These are going to be really like the core of your army. Hearthkin from the rank and file of kinhost clad and durable void armor and laying down storms of fire from bolt and iron weaponry. They're an essential part of the Leagues of Votann force, forming squads of up to 20 warriors for the ultimate in objective defense. I think overall the bolt weapons are better. The plasma weapons are good. They cost a little extra, but they have half the shots. And if you know one thing about the Leagues of Votann, volume of fire is really where they come in because of their like special abilities and everything. So in my opinion, the more shots is better. Next we have the Hernkyn Pioneers. Now these are really good because they're objective secured and they're also really fast as well. So that is huge. They have a lot of firepower also. 3 of these guys is just over 100 points. You can take them in squads of 6s. If you max out a squad of 6, give them 2 of the heavy weapons and, you know, pretty much equip them pretty well. They cost about 240 points for 6 models, objective secured, with 3 wounds each, 4 for the heavy gunner, which is 1 per 3. Overall, very, very good unit. Probably one of, if not the best unit in the Codex. Now they have a 4-up save and no invulnerable save. So they are definitely vulnerable to firepower. But they dish out a bunch of their own and they're quick. So you really have to use these like a glass cannon and make sure they are positioned accordingly. But small units and big units both have a place. More independently minded kin trade the regimented life of leagues for an open road, returning to fight for their holds as Hernkyn Pioneer Outriders. The grab bikes are equipped with an array of powerful weapons, giving a heavy offensive punch to their speedy hit and run attacks. Next we have the Cthonian Berserkers. So these guys are your dedicated combat unit. They're very good, pretty durable overall with their special rules, and then they also have the ability to upgrade one to it's like a mole launcher or something like that. It's okay little shooting, but there's a stratagem that is tied to it as well that essentially can half the movement of a unit that's hit by it. So there's definitely some cheeky stuff you can do here. You can also run these as more of a defensive unit and then fire off like the little mole mortars and slow down anything that's coming close or trying to get away from them. And especially if you combine that with the Brokhyr Iron-Master, he lets you use 1 stratagem per turn for 1 less command point. So if you're using a 1 command point stratagem, it becomes free. So he basically gives you at the end of the game, you know, like 5 extra command points for your mole launcher or teleporting your troops or something like that. So very, very good unit right here. Definitely do a lot of damage. They don't have a ton of attacks. I really like the axes on them because they have a sweep attack as well that doubles their attacks. But you could do some damage definitely with the various weapons in here. They all have a place. But again, they did go up now to 30 points apiece from 22. So just 5 guys with no upgrades is 150 points. Very, very expensive. Hailing from the Cthonian Mining Guild, the Berserkers are ferocious close combat fighters who load up with their augments and charge headlong into combat, swinging brutal mining tools fashioned into weapons of war. And next we have the Sagitaur. So this is a transport right here. It has a transport capacity of 5 models. It does have 1 heavy weapon on top and a couple of you know, decent weapons in the front there as well. So equipped how it is here in the picture is typically how I would equip mine. You're talking about a little over 100 points for this thing. After the nerf and everything, it's like 130. With the equipment right here, I think is the best. And essentially, you're going to get 12 shots with like 2 damage on them. Pretty good overall, especially again when you're looking at like the volume of firepower. Now the cool rule about these things though is they can only carry 5 guys, which means they can't actually carry like a kin squad because the minimum size is 10. But if you take 2 of these as a single choice, you can split up a 10-man squad of, you know, whatever you want really, as long as they're able to go in here. I can split up a 10-man squad between 2 of them, and then you now have 2 sort of like combat squatted units. So 2 5-man squads. They act independently during the game. The actual Sagitaurs act independently during the game. Very cool for giving you small, cheap units that you can use to hold objectives or use to, you know, just sacrifice essentially to just throw them on an objective and have some objective secured. So really cool units over here. 130 points. It's a little expensive. If you take 2 of these, like you would want to split up a squad, it's going to cost you 260 points. And then you take a kin squad for about like 140 to 160 points. So you're around 400 points for 2 of these and 1 squad inside of them. But essentially now you have 4 separate pieces to play with for 400 points, which makes each piece roughly 100 points. You know, obviously doing the math there. But at 100 points, this is basically like the cheapest way you can get small units and just more pieces on the table. So there's definitely a place for these things. They're pretty good overall. They have a nice save. They have the void armor. They're fast, which is one of the biggest weaknesses of the army, and they dish out quite a bit of firepower. So big fan of these. Don't love the points increase, but I do get it. They definitely allow you to do some stuff that no other unit can by splitting up your units. Now you could also do something like put Cthonian Berserkers in these. You could take a unit of 10 and then divide it into 2 units of 5. So before the nerfs, a lot of people were saying they were going to take 30 Cthonian Berserkers and then put, 1 or more units of 10 inside of these things. So you basically, instead of having 3 units of 10, you would have 6 units of 5. Now, obviously now it's just not really that viable with the points increases and everything, but cool idea. It would still work in smaller scale, I think. One not blessed with the Sprinter's Gate, the kin still value quick redeployment in battle and make heavy use of the rugged Sagitaur ATVs to transport their warriors around. 2 Sagitaurs working in concert can even carry a whole 10-man Hearthkin squad, delivering dependable troops wherever they're needed. Alright, and then next we have the Hekaton Land Fortress. So this is your, heavy, big, chunky vehicle. Very good. Again, it has like 12 shots with the bolt weapons. If you take those, they have 3 shots each and there's 4 of them. And then it also has 1 of the other weapons as well. And then you get to pick 1 of the big weapons. So this thing basically has all the weapons of Sagitaur plus 1 heavy weapon and then 1 more kind of like mid-grade weapon. This has a 2-up save. It can transport 12 models and it is definitely a beast. Very, very good. It did go up from 230 points to 300, which is a big jump. But it was obviously mispriced point-wise before. I think it should have been somewhere around like 275 or something like that. It always ignores cover. You can get rid of the ignore cover ability to take an extra 1-shot weapon on it. Pretty good overall. Very nice. Definitely can do some serious damage. I'm not a huge fan of the conversion beamer unless you're playing Ymir Conglomerate, then you could argue for it. I actually like the Magna rail rifle on here, and the Magnum rail rifles go really, really well with the Greater Thurian League. Having the ability to reroll 1 hit or 1 miss, you just shoot with the Magna rail rifle first, and then use that to your advantage. And then if you still have it left afterwards, you can use your reroll on one of the other weapons. But basically guaranteeing a hit and a wound from that thing is like essentially 10 damage with no invulnerable saves. Very, very good. The toughest obstacles require a vehicle of tremendous power to break through, and the Hekaton Land Fortress served with distinction. Festooned with weapons and capable of carrying large numbers of troops, this impressive battle tank is a fearsome asset on the battlefield, dealing damage and soaking up punishment in equal measures. It is important to note, too, that with the 12 transport capacity, you could basically take a kin unit or a 10-man unit, and then like 1 of the characters or 2 of the characters, you could pile in some of the multiple units of characters in here as well. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it, but the most important thing is that it can transport your exo units. So basically like the big suits, and that's important. They take up either 2 or 3 spots respectively, but this is your only way to transport them. Is it viable? Probably not. Maybe just to stop from like an Alpha Strike. Next we have the Leagues of Votann dice set. So the League's dice right here, they look okay. We know they're going to be 40 bucks. There's 20 of them in the set. Oh wait, hang on. Give your Kinbad the support it deserves with a set of 16 Leagues of Votann dice cast in semi-transparent plastic with burnished yellow gold details and the faction logo on the 6. Really? So very, very interesting. So we're going from now giving people 20 dice in a set down to 16. So in many ways, that is what we call shrinkflation, ladies and gentlemen. You get, 20% less dice, and they're probably going to be the same price. So expect these at $38 and now 16 dice instead of 20. Not a big fan of that. Can't stand when Games Workshop does these stealth price increases by giving you less product. Hopefully the price has come down, but let's be real. Next we have the Datacards Leagues of Votann. So these are a nice little tool to have. It's up to you whether or not you like them. Obviously they came in the starter set. So even if you're not going to pick up the starter set or like the limited edition box, you should be able to get these really, really cheap, as well as the Codex as well. So before purchasing these directly at full price, I would really look into the aftermarket as well. So next we have some Horus Heresy stuff. The Deimos Pattern Predator Support Tank. Pretty cool overall. It's got the plasma. Nice looking tank right here for the Horus Heresy players out there. And then next we have from Forge World, Corswain, the Paladin of the Ninth Order. Pretty cool Dark Angel character right here. And then we have the Death Guard Legion Praetors. So we've obviously seen all these showed off now, and now they're finally going to be available for order. The Death Guard upgrades, shoulder pads, the heads. Some nice looking stuff right here. And then Blood Angels, heads, and of course shoulder pads as well. So that is it for this week. Obviously, big week for the Leagues of Votann. Don't get me started about the dice right there. Definitely hate to see that happen. But very excited to see the old squats fully released here. It is strange that they basically did the starter box in advance and then just everything dropping at the same time. Typically they space it out a little bit so that I think you get more people to buy stuff when you space it out, but we'll have to see. I'm definitely going to be picking up some of these units. Very excited to be filling out my army and super excited to be showing them off shortly. Haven't got around to painting yet. I was doing some very, very extensive, heavy conversions. So get excited if you want to see the squats in their true form and not the Leagues of Votann remastered or whatever it is. Love the models overall, though. Very, very cool. Rules are pretty good as well. Again, with the points increases, I don't think they're going to be crazy competitive. Now, they may be a gatekeeper list, but they're, basically like their secondaries are not that great. And then on top of that, they do a lot of damage, but they're kind of slow. And now they're pretty expensive too. So when it's all said and done, very cool. We're going to see some unique armies come out. I think we're mostly going to be seeing Greater Arthurian League and also the Ymir Conglomerate. But we'll see. Maybe something else will emerge over time. Very excited for these units. Very excited for these models. We'll see what the prices are. I can only just speculate in general what they're going to be. But we will have the official prices coming out in the next day or two. So super cool. Super exciting. Let me know what you think. What are you going to be picking up? What are you excited for? Or what bums you out about the points increases or the changes, etc. Always like to hear back from you guys. And if you're into these daily videos, reactions, reviews, and news, painting, modeling, conversion tutorials, make sure to like and subscribe for Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team, Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, Warcry, all that good content. A little Horus Heresy in there as well. But that's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and I'm out of here.